la fin, on a gagné, donc on est content.
Trop mangé. Il mange beaucoup, mais il doit parce qu'il est costaud.
Michael Olise. And when he joined the French national team, some people started questioning his legitimacy to join the national team. Why? Michael Olise was born and raised in London. He started his career as a football player in local teams such as Chelsea, but also later Manchester. He had his first professional opportunities also in England. He played for Reading and for Crystal Palace. But what is the most surprising for a lot of people is that Michael decided to play for the French national team.
Ça fait plaisir.
He is born and raised. He would be allowed to play for England. His father is Nigerian and his mother is French-Algerian. Ultimately, he decided to play for France, but some media and some people started questioning whether he really had the right to play for French national team. Two things is important to note for those of you that are not familiar at all with football. Two things is important to note for those of you that are not familiar at all with football. One, with football, you can play for a local club, which means a club from a city, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, or Bayern Munich. But in club, you have a contract, but you are also allowed to play for the national team of your country. Can be France, can be England, can be Spain, can be Portugal, Argentina, Brazil. That being said, there are some rules when it comes to playing for your national team. Due to historical reason, FIFA, which is the organizer of the World Cup, set it up certain rules that would not allow player to play for a nation in a World Cup and then to play for another nation. For example, in the Olympic. In the case of Michael Olise, he actually started his French journey with the youth selection. He was selected first with the youth, where he played actually with some of his team members that he's currently playing with, for example, Kone. And he was selected during the Olympic game 2 years ago by Thierry Henry to play in the national team, and this is where a lot of French people discovered him. Finally, now he's playing for the World Cup, and I love it. But he usually do not have a lot of media presence, and the few interviews that he had in French, and especially during the time that he was playing for the Olympic Games, people started questioning whether he had the right to play for a French team if he doesn't speak French.
Très heureux d'être là et j'espère que c'est le début de quelque chose de spécial. Ouais, bien sûr, c'est mon rêve depuis j'étais petit.
So this is something that is very common in terms of language and identity. Are you French if you don't speak French? Are you French if you don't look French according to certain standard? Are you French if you didn't grow up in France? That is something that happened to me. I was born and raised in Yseuln, which is a French former colony that became French. I was not born and raised in the French continent. When I'm abroad and some people hear me talking in English and that I do not have the expectation of what they believe I should talk in English with an accent, they start questioning whether I'm really French, because if I'm really French, I wouldn't speak that way. So I'm probably something else. So it's very important to note that Michael Olise can speak French, okay? Michael Olise can speak French, but he's still learning. He probably grew up hearing a lot of French through his mom or the side of his mom. He indicated as well that he went on holiday in France multiple times when he was young. So he's the typical example of having a lot of input but not sufficiently output. So he was exposed to the language. He could hear it, he could understand it, but not sufficiently to fluently to a native level to speak it. He's learning more and more because now he's surrounded by the French team. He's basically in the context of having to work in French. So he has improved tremendously already.
Content, parce qu'on a gagné. C'était un match difficile, mais on a fait tout pour faire gagner et à la fin on a gagné, donc on est content.
Racontez-le moi.
Ouais, je suis heureux de mettre mon premier but avec l'équipe.
Bonjour à tous, les entraîneurs, le staff, tout le monde qui met. Ouais, jouer pour la France aussi, c'est une immense fierté. Merci à tous.
Félicitations. Bravo Michael pour cette...
And in a few years, there will be no debate. But this is a real question. How languages and your skills and your accent in the language would, how people evaluate your legitimacy to be from one nationality to another one. And this is, you can see also in a professional context. In general, languages is more than a skill. It obviously gives you access, for example, if you're in sales, it might allow you to sell to customer in different region. I've seen that in my company. I have a friend as a recruiter. She's French speaker, but she also speaks Spanish, so she's able to support for the recruitment of Spanish speaker. But all of that is not the only part. A language, it's also a way to belong. As much as your skin color or your feature is a way that you can belong to a group, the same goes with languages. And this is why I really love languages and I find it super important, and I always advocate for learning languages even in the age of AI where everything can be translated, because languages is also understanding maybe jokes that are make like cultural references, understanding behavior. Languages is just more than just a pure skills. When you speak language, you can be integrated into communities, or you can get closer to some people, right? I've often used my language skill to get to talk to people, to like first starting to get to know them and be like, I am from there. It's like, oh, I can speak Spanish, or I can speak Korean, or I've learned Japanese. People already feel like we have a common link. So language is a skill, but it gives you a new layer. It almost add, like, if you're like 2D, right, which you're not, but imagine you're 2D, now suddenly you speak another language, you're 3D, 4D, 5, 6, 7D, I don't know. But also at work, and this is something that I've seen with some of my colleagues which are not French native, but they are French speaker at a good level, they will naturally integrate into French group, because when you live abroad, a lot of people rely in groups or communities that speak their language. And although at first you in some culture or some area, it might be very difficult to integrate with the native people, but for a lot of languages, if you can speak the language to a certain level, you will be able to integrate, in the sense of that you will belong to the community, because we don't need to switch to another language. You can fully be here and nobody would feel uncomfortable by speaking their native language. So Michael Olise legitimacy, to what I think, will not have been questioned because he was born and raised in the UK, because this and that, if, for example, his language skill were not questioned. So that is another reminder of how much we tie our identity, our sense of belonging, to more than just your nationality. It is the language that you speak, the cultural references that you have, right? And I've seen that with Korean, where I have some Korean friends or colleague who feel like they look Korean, but they can't speak Korean. They've never been to Korea, and the sense of belonging is a little bit different, and people also perceive them differently. So with the rise of tech and AI, a lot of people think whether it is important to continue learning a language, and totally, because you get access to different rooms, different communities, different people by talking their language. So yeah, this was a video obviously to talk about the languages, but also to rant about Michael Olise talent on the pitch. But yeah, I'm really excited to see until how far the French team will go, and how far Michael Olise will go and assist and score. So it was a little bit different. I've been rambling about And I've been watching a lot of content on the World Cup. And when I saw what happened with Michael Olise, I immediately wanted to make a video about it because he's the perfect example of how languages can impact your career, right? If he would have spoken French flawlessly with perfect accent, I don't think anybody would even question, right? He's French. But the fact that he has not what people expect of a French speaker, then people start questioning his choice. And he's now locked in with the French team. So he is not, by the rule of the FIFA, he's not able to play for another team and for another national team. So some people are petty because, yeah, he's talented and, you know, he looked magnificent on the pitch. So sorry, guys. For this time, it's good to be French.
Bravo, bravo, Michael, pour cette...
Well, I'll see you on the next video.